When 50 made the move to Houston, J. Prince expected protocol, expected a phone call, a bow of the head, something. But 50, he said, hell no. He wasn't checking in, wasn't asking for permission, he had his own security, his own bag, and he wasn't playing by nobody's street rulebook. And then, he didn't just visit Houston. He moved there. He tweeted, loud and proud, I love New York, but I live in Houston now. Everyone thought it was about taxes, but honey, this was more than a financial move, it was a chess move.
Buzzbuster in the hood. Let's go. The Prince family has found its way back into the spotlight. And once again, the conversation circles around the same reputation that has followed J. Prince for years. In Houston, his name has long been linked to a certain kind of influence, the kind people speak about with caution. Some even compare his presence in the city to what Big U represented elsewhere, because his reach in the entertainment world has been felt for a very long time. For decades, J. Prince and his family were seen as major power players in Houston music. Their presence was strong, their connections were deep, and their name carried weight across the industry. Around that city, and especially in Southern hip-hop, Rap-A-Lot Records was not just another label. It was a force. If an artist was building momentum in Texas or making noise in the South, there was a good chance Rap-A-Lot would come up somewhere along the way. Everything changed, though, when that same pressure was aimed at 50 Cent. The expected outcome seemed obvious to some people. Usually, when J. Prince's name entered a situation, others would move carefully.
There's been so much back and forth drama between 50 Cent and Big Meech, and it all exploded when Big Meech teamed up with Rick Ross, who, as we all know, is 50's arch enemy. Big Meech and Rick Ross had planned this huge welcome home concert for Meech, which was supposed to bring in some much-needed cash since he'd just been released from prison.
Yet 50 Cent was never known for playing by those rules. Rather than backing down or showing fear, he responded the way he always has when challenged, with jokes, mockery, and a public performance that turned serious tension into entertainment. To understand why that clash stood out, it helps to look back at what J. Prince created. During the 1980s, he built Rap-A-Lot into something that truly mattered, especially across the South. Houston had its own identity, and Rap-A-Lot helped push that identity into the wider rap conversation. The label became a symbol of Southern ambition at a time when many parts of the music business still looked elsewhere for stars and trends.
Its influence stretched far beyond one city. Rap-A-Lot became tied to respected names and important moments in hip-hop. Artists connected to that world included figures like Bun B, Pimp C, Zero, and even acts such as Juvenile at different points in the broader orbit. That kind of roster gave the label real credibility. More importantly, it showed that J. Prince was not just participating in the industry, he was shaping part of it.
You think about early Texas rap, you gotta go back to the early Rap-A-Lot days with acts like Royal Flush, Raheem, and the original Ghetto Boys, which initially was Sir Jukebox, Sir Rap-A-Lot, and Prince Johnny C.
For a while, the label felt unstoppable. Its brand was powerful, its role in Southern rap was undeniable, and its impact reached into conversations far beyond Houston. There was a period when Rap-A-Lot represented authenticity, street knowledge, and business strength all at once. In that era, J. Prince was not just a name in the credits, he was part of the legend surrounding the music. Still, momentum in entertainment never lasts forever. As the years moved on and the 2000s came into view, the label no longer carried the same energy it once did. The big records became less frequent. Fresh breakout artists stopped arriving at the same pace. What once felt dominant began to feel more like a legacy brand leaning on its past. That shift matters because when influence starts changing, people begin watching how power is used.
Yes, you can have $1 billion and not have that street cred or the knowledge and different things. You ain't live that. Right. You won't see different things coming. It'll hit you right smack in the goddamn center of the head. You won't never see it coming because you ain't been trained.
A name that once symbolized success can slowly become associated more with reputation than results. That is part of why moments like the 50 Cent situation attracted so much attention. It wasn't just about two famous names. It was about what happens when an old-school image of control runs into someone who thrives on public chaos and refuses to be intimidated.
In that matchup, 50 Cent did not respond with silence. He turned it into content. He made it look like the pressure did not land. Instead of treating the moment like a threat, he treated it like material. That reaction flipped the whole dynamic and made the situation even more talked about, because people were used to seeing others handle J. Prince very differently. So when the Prince family lands in headlines now, it is never just about one news story. it brings up an entire history of influence, power, fear, respect, and changing relevance. Rap-A-Lot once stood at the center of a major cultural wave. Later, as the hit slowed and the landscape changed, the aura remained, even when the momentum did not. That contrast is exactly what makes these stories so hard for people to ignore. The influence began to slip. Rap from the city didn't vanish overnight, but it no longer carried the same force it once did. The momentum slowed, the excitement faded, and people noticed. When the record stopped making the same kind of noise, one question shows up fast. If the music isn't driving the spotlight anymore, where is all the money still coming from? That's when the talk gets louder. For years, industry whispers have pointed in the same direction. The rumor that keeps resurfacing is extortion. Allegedly, stories have circulated for a long time claiming there's been an unwritten system in Houston, one where visiting artists are expected to check in when they arrive. On the surface, that phrase can sound harmless, almost routine. Yet depending on who tells the story, it means something very different behind the scenes.
When you come to Houston, you're checking in with certain people.
Mr. Prince.
Yes, sir. You gotta check in, say
Joe
hi.
don't gotta check in.
Well, not that business. I say hi.
You've had him on here, right?
Yeah.
He's a legend in the game.
Hold on, even Joe Rogan is checking in? Like, Joe Rogan gotta check in with Jay Prince? Bro, that's crazy, bro. Hold on.
Jay Prince has addressed the idea himself more than once. He's spoken openly about checking in, and has even said he helped make that concept part of the culture well before prosecutors began connecting hip-hop cases to RICO investigations. From his point of view, the practice is about knowing the landscape, understanding the power structure in a city, and showing proper respect to the people who hold influence there. Still, not everyone sees it that way. To critics, that same custom doesn't look like courtesy at all. They view it as pressure. In their eyes, it's less about protocol and more about making sure outsiders understand there's a gate to pass through. That's why the conversation has never really gone away. Every time the subject comes up, the same tension returns. Is this simply street etiquette, or is it something closer to a forced arrangement dressed up as tradition? That question is exactly what keeps the rumors alive. Over the years, plenty of stories have been attached to this idea, and each one has added another layer to the mystery. Some accounts paint it as a necessary move for safety and smooth business. Others describe it as a system where people felt they had little choice if they wanted to move freely, perform, or avoid problems. The details often shift depending on who's talking, but the pattern in the stories stays surprisingly similar. What makes it even more intriguing is that this isn't some obscure rumor tied to unknown names. Major figures have been mentioned in the conversation, which is why the topic keeps pulling attention. Once high-profile artists get linked to the discussion, it stops sounding like random gossip and starts feeling like part of a much bigger narrative inside the music business. One of the most famous names ever brought up in connection with this subject is Jay-Z.
I got calls that he was in the airport, right? Okay. I mean, imagine that shit, right? I like that. I wouldn't know shit when you land, you know what I mean? Because it's that deep, right? A long story short, right? Long story short, he pursued his situation, right? And he was in a Ritz-Carlton, from what I hear. And it didn't go well for him because he didn't do shit protocol-wise.
That alone is enough to make people pause. When an artist of that level gets mentioned in stories like these, it changes the stakes. Suddenly, this isn't just local talk or underground speculation. It becomes a window into how power may operate behind closed doors, especially in cities where music, reputation, and influence are tightly connected. Whether people believe the claims or dismiss them, the fact that such a massive name continues to come up tells you just how deeply this topic has embedded itself into hip-hop lore. At the center of it all is the same unresolved debate. Was checking in a genuine sign of respect in a complicated environment? Or was it a system that blurred the line between guidance and pressure? Jay Prince has made his position clear. Others remain deeply skeptical. And because both sides see the same practice in completely different ways, the controversy has never fully disappeared. Instead, it keeps resurfacing whenever the money, the power, and the silence around it all start to raise eyebrows again. According to Jay Prince, there was a period when the relationship between him and Jay-Z was far from comfortable. tension was in the air, and somehow he appeared to know the exact moment Jay-Z touched down in Houston.
Right? Okay. I mean, imagine that shit, right? I like that. I would know shit when you land. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's that deep, right? Yeah. A long story short, right? Long story short, he pursued his situation, right?
What people have repeated ever since is this. Jay-Z allegedly skipped the expected check-in, and as a result, his hotel experience reportedly became more complicated than it needed to be. Even so, not everyone moves the same way in situations like that. Some artists choose to avoid friction. Others lean straight into it. That is exactly why 50 Cent became such a major part of the conversation. Pressure has never really been his style. If anything, 50 Cent built his image around doing the opposite of what people expect, especially when someone tries to apply rules to him. So when he traveled to Houston around 2019 for business, along with an event appearance, talk started spreading almost immediately. The rumor was simple. He would be expected to check in too.
Instead of following that script, he reportedly answered the speculation in the most 50 Cent way possible. He made a joke out of it. People say he put up a post, later removed, that sent a very clear message. The line was reportedly something close to, "I do not check in, I fly." Short sentence, big reaction. With just a few words, he turned the entire situation into a headline and let everyone know he was not interested in playing along with outside expectations. That post alone would have been enough to get people talking. Still, according to the chatter around the situation, he did not leave it there. He was also said to have kept poking at the issue, throwing subtle online jabs at J. Prince and those around him. Nothing too direct, at least not on the surface, but pointed enough that people understood exactly who the comments were aimed at. Naturally, that is when everyone started waiting for the next move. Normally, when J. Prince feels the need to address something, he is not known for staying completely quiet in public. That's part of why this moment stood out so much. The expected back and forth never really arrived. No major public response, no visible escalation, just silence. That quiet reaction, or lack of one, quickly became its own story. People noticed it right away. In a situation where many expected a firm reply, the absence of one felt unusual.
You know what I mean? To even see that coming. But when you have access to the power, to the machine, use it. You know what I mean? Use it, because it makes a difference. You'll make it home at night, you know what I mean? And that's what's important.
That's the only thing that's important.
Yeah.
Making it home at night.
And I want to say this, man, like, we some extraordinary people, man. We doing some extraordinary things out here. And we got something.
It made the whole episode even more interesting, because when someone known for speaking up says nothing, people start reading into every detail. Was the silence intentional? Was it strategic? Or was it simply a decision not to give the situation any more attention than it already had? Those questions helped keep the rumor alive. Once that happens, the conversation usually grows on its own.
What made the moment especially memorable was the contrast between the two styles. On one side, there was the reputation of protocol, respect, and checking in. On the other, there was 50 Cent, a figure known for turning tension into entertainment and using humor to cut through pressure. That clash alone was enough to keep people talking long after the original post disappeared. In the end, the biggest takeaway was not just what 50 Cent allegedly posted, it was what did not happen afterward. The reaction many expected never came, and that silence only added another layer to the story. In hip-hop, sometimes the loudest moment is not the statement itself. Sometimes it is the pause that follows. Usually, he isn't someone who ignores a challenge like that, especially when it comes from a figure as outspoken and impossible to miss as 50 Cent. A comment from someone with that much visibility is not the kind of thing people just brush past. Tony Yayo added another layer to the situation and made the message even clearer. From his point of view, G-Unit never built its reputation by asking permission or depending on local names for approval. No matter the city, whether it was LA, Houston, or anywhere else, their approach stayed the same. They went where they wanted, handled business on their own terms, and made sure they were ready for whatever came with it. His explanation was simple. In that world, survival is not about checking in with whoever claims the block. It is about moving carefully, having the right protection around you, and staying alert. Preparation mattered more than politics. Being smart mattered more than trying to impress anyone.
At that point, Wack 100 was managing the game, which placed him right in the center of the tension. Because of that connection, he ended up becoming part of the conflict whether he planned to or not. By Wack 100's own telling, he chose to approach 50 directly at his hotel in Los Angeles, believing he was stepping into a situation he could control. What happened next, however, did not unfold the way he expected.
I guess you got the drop on 50 Cent one time?
We thought we did until we got in there. Mike called us, told he was up there. I got up there. We got up there, we came in, and they had Navy SEALs with them, 2 in all directions. I was about 6 of them. Walkies in their ear, vested, guns strapped to their thigh, bullies on them, semis on them, magazine cartridges. I said, yeah, he ain't slipping.
Here's how the story is usually told. Word reached Wack 100 that 50 was staying at the SLS Hotel and spending time at the smaller bar inside the property. Hearing that, he reportedly saw an opening. Instead of treating it like a risky move, he seemed to think it would be a straightforward pull-up, a simple in-person conversation where he could make his presence felt. So he arrived with his people, confident and ready, expecting a direct encounter. The mood changed the second they stepped inside. Almost immediately, something felt different. The energy in the room was not casual, and it did not take long to understand why. One fast look across the lobby told the whole story. 50 was not sitting there exposed or isolated. He was there with a serious presence around him, positioned in a way that made it clear this was not going to be the easy face-to-face Wack 100 may have imagined. That detail changed everything. Instead of walking into a relaxed setting, he had entered an environment where 50 already looked completely secure. The setup suggested planning, awareness, and control. There was no sign of panic, no indication that anyone had been caught off guard, and definitely no sense that 50 needed help from outside figures to feel protected in that moment.
That lines up with what Tony Yeo had been saying all along. The point was never about proving toughness through big public gestures. It was about moving with discipline, keeping reliable security close, and making sure no one could catch you lacking. In that version of events, 50 did not need to call around, ask for passes, or depend on local alliances. He simply made sure his own situation was covered. For Wack 100, that realization seems to have landed instantly. What he expected to be a show of pressure suddenly looked a lot different once he saw the reality of the room. Confidence can disappear fast when the other side appears fully prepared. That is what makes the story stand out. On the surface, it sounds like a routine confrontation. Underneath, it becomes a bigger statement about how certain crews operate. One side believed in influence and connections. The other side seemed to believe in planning ahead, staying protected, and letting that speak for itself. By the time the scene settled in, the message was hard to miss. 50 was not there by himself, and whatever Wack 100 thought he was walking into, the lobby made it clear he had misread the situation from the start.
I come from like a place where you have to be ready. Don't get ready, you gotta be ready, right? And I would layer things around me to prepare for different type of situations. And
like 10 of us. We coming in this motherfucker, and I stop, I'm looking around. I'm like, something don't seem right about this scenery.
From the outside, it didn't look like ordinary backup. According to Wack 100, the team around 50 moved more like top-tier tactical professionals than typical security. Every detail stood out. Their eyes stayed active, constantly reading the room. Their positioning was disciplined. Their hands were set, ready for anything. Nothing about that scene suggested confusion or hesitation. One thing became obvious fast. 50 wasn't up there unprepared. He didn't walk into that situation unaware or exposed. Instead, it looked like he had already thought several steps ahead before anyone else even made a move. That changes the whole story.
More importantly, this wasn't just about showing up with a strong presence. There seemed to be a deeper layer behind it. The real advantage may have been information. If the setup unfolded the way people describe it, 50 likely had people feeding him updates, keeping him aware of what Wack 100 was trying to line up. With that kind of notice, he wouldn't just react, he could plan. He could position himself exactly where he needed to be and turn the pressure back on the people expecting to control the moment. That's why the situation has taken on a bigger meaning. It didn't feel like a random clash or a lucky escape. It felt calculated. Even Wack 100 seemed to acknowledge that possibility, saying it gave the impression that 50 had arranged the whole thing as a statement, not just to avoid being cornered, but to make it clear that trying to force his hand would come with consequences. Seen from that angle, the message was impossible to miss. If the goal had been to make him check in, the plan clearly didn't land the way it was supposed to. Rather than folding under pressure,
50 appeared to flip the script completely. The people expecting leverage may have ended up walking into a situation where he already held the upper hand. Still, 50 Cent isn't the only artist whose name surfaces in these conversations about J. Prince and the idea of control, pressure, and testing boundaries. Another major example people bring up is NBA YoungBoy. The story tied to him goes back to June 2020, when a group reportedly entered YoungBoy's house in Houston. On paper, that might sound like a standard home intrusion. The details, however, suggest something much more deliberate. This didn't come across like an impulsive act by strangers stumbling through a property. It appeared organized, intentional, almost studied.
So what's the deal with NBA YoungBoy? Break it down for me. He has to live in Utah?
He's on house arrest.
But is he? He's not from Utah originally. Where is he from?
Louisiana.
So why is he not on house arrest in Louisiana? Do you get to choose which house you're under arrest in?
Probably because he'll get into a lot of trouble. He's a celebrity. It's actually smart.
Whoever went inside seemed to know the place unusually well. They weren't moving blindly or guessing their way around. They appeared familiar with the layout of the home, which immediately raised questions. That kind of confidence usually doesn't come from chance. Even more striking were the smaller details. Reports suggested they knew where the car keys were kept. They also seemed aware of where specific belongings could be found. That level of precision is what made the incident stand out. It hinted at prior knowledge, not random opportunity. Once those details entered the conversation, the tone around the story changed. Suddenly, it wasn't just about the fact that someone got into the house. The bigger concern became how they knew so much in the first place. People started looking at the situation less like a simple intrusion and more like an event that may have involved inside knowledge or careful preparation. That's what makes YoungBoy's case so significant in this broader discussion. It fits the same unsettling pattern people point to in other stories: pressure, planning, and a sense that certain moves are designed to send a message rather than simply take something. When the people involved seem to know exactly where to go, exactly what to look for, and exactly how to move, it naturally leaves behind more questions than answers. And in stories like these, those unanswered questions are often what keep the rumors alive. What made the situation even more bizarre was the fact that it was all captured on video. The intruders filmed themselves walking through the house, talking to the camera, showing off, and acting like they had just pulled off some massive score. At first glance, you would think they had made off with something huge.
Reality told a very different story. According to YoungBoy, the haul was surprisingly small. He said the only things taken were his cameraman's Gucci flip-flops and a small amount of cash. That alone made the whole stunt look less like a major robbery and more like a performance designed to get attention. The story took an even stranger turn after that. YoungBoy claimed those same individuals later tried to pressure him for money. The demand was reportedly $30,000 in exchange for giving the items back. Instead of playing along, he refused to pay. Rather than handling it quietly, he took the situation straight to Instagram and called them out publicly, challenging them to share their location. After that, everything seemed to go quiet. The people behind it allegedly vanished from sight, and for a moment, it looked like the situation might finally fade away. Yet just as things were starting to cool off, another major name entered the picture. That's when J. Prince made his move. Without much warning, he appeared publicly and announced that he had recovered YoungBoy's stolen belongings. He presented it as if he was stepping in to resolve the issue, almost like he was restoring order and tying up loose ends before things escalated any further. Instead of easing the tension, his involvement had the opposite effect. Suddenly, even more people started paying close attention. Fans didn't all see it as a simple act of help. For many of them, it raised more questions than answers. The whole thing stopped looking like a straightforward recovery and started feeling far more layered. Suspicion started building fast. Online, people began wondering how he was able to get the items back so quickly and why he was the one making the public announcement. To some viewers, it didn't come across like a random favor. It looked calculated, almost like there was more happening behind the scenes than anyone was saying out loud.
That shift in public reaction changed the tone completely. Which should have looked like a problem being solved, only made the situation feel more complicated. Every new detail seemed to push fans deeper into speculation. Instead of bringing closure, the recovery added another mystery to a story that was already full of strange twists. By that point, the conversation wasn't really about the stolen items anymore. It had become about the bigger picture: the recording, the bragging, the small amount allegedly taken, the demand for money, YoungBoy's public response,
and then Jay Prince stepping in at just the right moment. Put all of that together, and it's easy to understand why so many people felt like this wasn't just a simple break-in. For a lot of fans, the entire sequence felt off from beginning to end. Nothing about it landed like a normal burglary story. It felt staged, messy, and loaded with unanswered questions. And when Jay Prince inserted himself into the middle of it, the situation didn't feel resolved. If anything, it felt like that was the moment the story became even more suspicious. What looked like support from the outside may have been far more calculated behind the scenes. Youngboy clearly didn't see it as genuine, and he made that known in public. Instead of welcoming the gesture, he pushed back hard. His point was simple. If Jay Prince truly wanted to help, there were plenty of private ways to make contact without turning it into an online moment. He made it clear he wanted Jay Prince to stay out of his affairs. That reaction only made the situation worse.
Like somewhat of a misunderstanding. You know, he said what he had to say, I said what I had to say. Concept of how things should be when in reality, they don't have to be that way, right? But
Jay Prince answered with a sharp public statement of his own, repeatedly referring to Youngboy as a dumb boy. He framed himself as the veteran in the room, someone from an older generation who had supposedly stepped in on behalf of a younger artist who, in his view, didn't understand respect. The tone wasn't subtle. It came across like a lesson, but it also sounded like a warning.
Things got even more layered when Jay Prince brought up Youngboy and his brother's past connection to mob ties, something linked to the circle around Jay Prince Jr. That detail added a different edge to the dispute. Suddenly, this wasn't just about one response or one misunderstanding. The implication was that Youngboy had once been associated with that world, had benefited from those relationships, and was now pretending otherwise. Whether that was fair or not, the message landed loudly. Still, according to Youngboy, the friction between them didn't begin with the robbery at all. In his version of events, the issues were already there long before that incident became public. He had been speaking on Jay Prince well before everything escalated. That changes the way the entire timeline looks, because it suggests the robbery didn't create the feud. It may have only exposed one that was already building in the background. Before June 2020, Youngboy had already gone public with serious accusations. He claimed Jay Prince was trying to pressure him into a business setup he didn't want any part of. The arrangement, as Youngboy described it, involved artists being expected to check in or pay in order to move around freely in certain cities. He did not dress it up in softer language or leave room for interpretation. He called it extortion. That word changed everything. Once that accusation was out there, this was no longer just a personal disagreement or a clash of personalities. It became a much bigger conversation about power, influence, and the kind of unofficial rules some artists say they face behind the scenes. Youngboy's position was clear. He wasn't willing to play by those expectations, and he wasn't afraid to say so publicly.
From there, the conflict started to look less like a sudden blow-up and more like a long, simmering dispute finally boiling over. One side appeared to be demanding acknowledgement and respect based on status, history, and connections. The other side was rejecting that framework completely and refusing to be controlled by it. That's what made the exchange feel so explosive. It wasn't just two people trading words. It was a direct collision between authority and independence, between old rules and someone determined not to follow them. So by the time the robbery entered the conversation, the tension was already in place. The public back and forth was just the latest chapter. Underneath it all was a deeper standoff over influence, loyalty, and whether anyone had the right to tell another artist how to move. Once his home was hit and Jay Prince later showed up with the missing property, a lot of observers stopped seeing it as a coincidence. What had seemed like a simple robbery started to look, in many people's eyes, like part of something much larger happening behind the scenes. Youngboy never appeared willing to soften his position on that. If anything, the people speaking around the situation pushed that view even harder. Names like Wack 100 added more fuel, suggesting the entire episode may have been tied to an effort to bring the NBA camp under the mob ties umbrella. From that perspective, the move wasn't just unsuccessful, it reportedly created even more tension than before. Wack 100 also emphasized something else that has followed Youngboy for years: his reputation for refusing to bend. In his telling, Youngboy is not someone who gets rattled by status, influence, or pressure. It supposedly doesn't matter who is standing in front of him. The image that keeps getting repeated is of someone who is extremely hard to shake and even harder to control.
That reputation only made the story feel bigger. Rather than calming down, the conversation around it kept escalating. And by 2022, things sounded even more explosive. At that point, Wack 100 took things a step further by implying that Youngboy may have answered the robbery situation in his own way. He stopped short of making a direct claim, but the suggestion alone was enough to send fans and commentators into overdrive. Of course, that part remained strictly alleged. Nothing about it should be treated as confirmed fact. Even so, once those hints were put into the air, the internet did what it always does. It started connecting dots, building theories, and treating speculation like evidence. That's when the music became part of the debate. Listeners began going back through Youngboy's lyrics, searching for anything that might match the rumors. Tracks like F the Industry Part 2, along with certain freestyles, quickly got pulled into the conversation. Every line that sounded coded, every bar that felt pointed, suddenly became material for fan analysis. Supporters and critics alike started asking the same question. Was he speaking directly about that situation, or were people simply hearing what they wanted to hear? That's what made the whole thing so gripping. It wasn't just about a robbery anymore. It had turned into a larger story about power, loyalty, pressure, and how public figures respond when they feel tested.
You know what I mean? To even see that coming. But when you have access to the power, to the machine, use it. You know what I mean? Use it, because it makes a difference. You'll make it home at night, you know what I mean? And that's what's important.
That's the only thing that's important.
Yeah.
It's making it home at night.
And I want to say this, man, like, we some extraordinary people, man. We doing some extraordinary things out here. And we got some.
Once those themes entered the picture, the incident took on a life of its own. What made it even more dramatic was the clash of images. On one side, you had the idea of influence and behind-the-scenes leverage. On the other, you had Youngboy's long-standing image as someone who doesn't submit easily. Put those two narratives together, and it's easy to see why so many people believe there was more happening than what appeared on the surface.
Still, the line between fact and rumor matters. A lot of what spread came from commentary, implication, and fan interpretation rather than hard proof. Yet in hip-hop, perception can become its own kind of reality, especially when major names are involved and the story already feels larger than life. That's why this moment kept growing. It wasn't only about what happened, it was about what people believed it meant. What's happening here also connects to the bigger conversation surrounding the Prince family lately, with much of the focus landing on J. Prince Jr. In recent years, public opinion has slowly shifted, and a growing number of people say the same concern keeps coming up again and again. Rather than being viewed strictly as a powerhouse music family, some critics argue the image around them feels much different. According to those voices, the way they operate seems less like a standard entertainment business and more like something tied to street politics. Whether that perception is fair or not, it has clearly gained traction online and in industry circles. Among all the names involved, J. Prince Jr. appears to be the one taking the strongest backlash. A lot of observers believe he has an unusual habit of being nearby whenever a situation escalates. That's the part people keep zeroing in on. It's not necessarily that they're accusing him of causing events directly. Instead, they keep asking the same question. Why does his name repeatedly come up when things go left? Two cases are mentioned more than any others when this topic comes up: Takeoff and Duke the Jeweler. Those two situations continue to fuel discussion because to many people, the circumstances felt strikingly alike. Each one reportedly involved late-night settings, dice games, rising tension, and a night that ended in tragedy. That similarity has only added to the speculation.
What makes the conversation even louder is the fact that J. Prince Jr. was reportedly present in both situations. For critics, that detail is impossible to ignore. They look at those parallels and feel like there's too much overlap to simply dismiss. Once people start linking events together like that, the narrative tends to grow fast. At the same time, it's important to state the other side clearly. The Prince family has denied any connection between themselves and the outcomes of those incidents. Their position has been that just being present does not mean they had anything to do with how events unfolded. From their perspective, the assumptions being made by the public go far beyond the facts that have actually been established. Still, that response hasn't stopped the speculation. For many people watching from the outside, this is no longer just about one isolated event or another. In their minds, it has become about repetition. When similar details keep surfacing around the same names, people begin to form their own conclusions. whether those conclusions are proven or not. That is how public narratives are built. It starts with a few observations, then those observations turn into conversations. And eventually, those conversations take on a life of their own. Before long, the focus shifts away from what can be confirmed and moves toward what people believe they're seeing. Right now, that seems to be exactly what's happening. The discussion surrounding the Prince family, especially J. Prince Jr., is no longer limited to a single headline. It has expanded into a wider perception issue where every new detail gets filtered through what people already think they know. Once that kind of image takes hold, shaking it becomes incredibly difficult. Even without direct proof, repeated public suspicion can be enough to keep a story alive. And when the same 2 or 3 elements show up in multiple tragedies, many in the public start treating that as more than coincidence. That's why the conversation keeps resurfacing. It isn't only about direct accusations. It's about the pattern people believe they're noticing and the weight that pattern carries in the court of public opinion. An OG out of Atlanta even. He came out in public and sounded the alarm about the entire checking in mindset. His warning was blunt. When artists land in a new city, they should stop depending on local figures who claim they'll handle everything. From his point of view, a lot of these self-proclaimed OGs are not truly there to protect anybody. Instead of trusting promises, he said artists need to take responsibility for themselves. Bring your own security team, manage your own schedule, stay in control of where you go, who you're with, and how you move. In his eyes, the biggest mistake is assuming someone else has your safety covered just because they have a name or reputation. He made it clear that many of these so-called protectors are not invested in your well-being at all. His advice was simple and direct. Hire real security, trust your own people, and do not get comfortable because somebody says they have a vehicle ready or claims they already arranged everything for you.
I come from like a place where you have to be ready. Don't get ready, you gotta be ready, right? And I would layer things around me to prepare for different type of situations. And
like 10 of us. We coming in this motherfucker, and I stop, I'm looking around. I'm like, something don't seem right about this scenery.
He dismissed those kinds of assurances as empty talk. More importantly, he argued that trusting the wrong people can lead to tragic outcomes that never should have happened in the first place. He pointed to the death of Takeoff as the kind of devastating situation that can grow out of avoidable choices and unnecessary dependence on the wrong circles.
That warning does not stand alone either. Wack 100 has also spent a long time cautioning artists about Houston. On multiple occasions, he has urged them to stay away from certain groups in the city. Among the names he has specifically mentioned is the Prince family, with particular emphasis on J. Prince Jr. Now, a fresh incident has pushed those concerns back into the spotlight. The newest situation drawing attention is the shooting involving NBA Youngboy affiliate NBA Ben 10. Reports say he was injured in an incident where, once again, J. Prince Jr. was reportedly present. The timing and location have only intensified the discussion. According to what has been reported, this happened on April 8, 2026, at Confessions Restaurant and Lounge in Houston. It was around 11:30 at night when the situation began to unfold. Because of that, the conversation around checking in has become even more heated. For critics of that culture, this case feels like another example of why artists should be extremely careful about who they trust when they travel. The larger point they keep making is not complicated. Status does not equal protection, and a famous name does not guarantee safety. What makes this topic hit so hard is how often the same warning keeps coming up. Again and again, artists are told not to hand over control of their movements the moment they arrive somewhere unfamiliar. Yet every time a new incident is reported, the same questions return. Who was really in charge? Who was supposed to be keeping things secure? And why do so many people keep relying on unofficial protection instead of trained professionals? Supporters of that warning believe the answer is simple. Too many artists are being sold an image of safety instead of the real thing. They are told they will be looked after, only to find themselves in unpredictable situations, surrounded by people whose priorities may be very different from their own. That is why the message has become so forceful. Move carefully, keep your team tight, use real security. Do not let outside figures take control just because they know the city or have influence in certain rooms. Once that control is gone, the risks can rise fast. With NBA Ben 10 now tied to the latest Houston incident, The scrutiny surrounding J. Prince Jr.'s presence at these situations is only getting louder. As more people connect the dots, the pressure around this entire issue continues to build. Inside the restaurant, the mood suddenly shifted in the worst way. What looked like a tense argument at first did not stay that way for long. In a matter of moments, the confrontation reportedly became far more serious. Later, Detroit rapper All-Star Jr. gave his version of what happened. He said several men closed in around him. From his account, the encounter turned physical almost immediately. He claimed he was knocked to the floor, and during the chaos, someone allegedly went for his chain. At that point, the situation completely unraveled. All-Star Jr. pulled out a weapon and opened fire. Gunshots echoed through the restaurant, turning a heated moment into total panic. 2 men were struck during the shooting. Among them was NBA Ben 10. Reports said he was hit multiple times in the torso and was left in critical condition. Another man, Dead End Ron, was also injured. He was reportedly struck in the arms and legs. Houston police rushed both men to the hospital as the aftermath unfolded. Before long, video from the scene began spreading across the internet. Once the footage started making rounds, All-Star Jr. moved quickly to present his side publicly. He went straight to social media and directly mentioned J. Prince Jr. by name. Through his posts, he shared photos and strongly suggested that he had acted in self-defense. His message was clear. He believed he was protecting himself during what he described as an attempted robbery.
Rather than backing away from that claim, he leaned into it. Just days later, on April 13th, he returned with even more to say. This time, he did it through music. He released a track called Expensive Wristwatch, adding another layer to a story that was already drawing intense attention online. That release only pushed the controversy further. By then, the shooting was no longer just a private incident discussed by those directly involved. It had become a public spectacle, fueled by viral footage, social media accusations, and a response track that made sure the conversation would keep going. What made the whole episode even more explosive was how fast every detail seemed to hit the internet. First came the reports, next came the videos. After that, the personal statements started landing, and each one added more pressure to an already volatile situation. Instead of calming things down, every new post appeared to pull more people into the drama. All-Star Jr.'s account centered on one point above all else. He maintained that he reacted because he felt threatened. According to his version, this was not random aggression. He portrayed it as a desperate response after being surrounded, taken down, and nearly robbed. Whether people accepted that explanation or questioned it, the claim became the center of the entire narrative. Meanwhile, the names attached to the incident made it spread even faster. With NBA Ben 10 and Dead End Ron identified as the men who were hit, public interest only intensified. Add in the mention of J. Prince Jr., and the story immediately carried even more weight across blogs, reaction channels, and social media pages.
By the time Expensive Wristwatch arrived, the incident had already taken on a life of its own. It was no longer just about what happened inside that restaurant. Now it was about the online fallout, the competing narratives, and the way one violent night quickly turned into a headline-grabbing controversy that refused to fade. He made sure nothing about it was subtle. Both the track and the imagery seemed to point straight at the shooting. As if that wasn't enough, he even tagged J. Prince Jr. while promoting it, making the message feel impossible to miss. From there, the speculation took off fast. Online chatter got louder, and suddenly people were saying investigators were allegedly taking a closer look at J. Prince Jr.'s possible connection to the entire situation. According to some reports, authorities were exploring whether he could have played some part in the attempted chain snatching that set everything in motion. That incident, of course, is the same one that reportedly led to All-Star Jr. firing those shots. What made the story even messier was the claim that problems between the two men may have started well before that night. Insiders began suggesting there had already been quiet tension brewing behind the scenes, long before the situation escalated in public. One rumor that kept coming up involved a woman. People close to the situation allegedly said J. Prince Jr. and All-Star Jr. had been in a low-key conflict over her for some time. The story being passed around was that All-Star Jr.'s child's mother was also allegedly involved with J. Prince Jr., and that personal overlap created serious friction between the camps. If those claims are true, then what happened that night may not have come out of nowhere at all. Instead, it may have been the result of unresolved issues, hurt feelings, and private drama slowly building until everything reached a breaking point.
That's why so many people began connecting the personal rumors to the public fallout. Still, it's important to note that these are allegations and rumors that have circulated around the case. J. Prince Jr. has denied being involved in what happened, and he has remained consistent with that position the entire time. He has not changed his story, even as more speculation continued to spread. At this stage, though, public attention doesn't seem to be centered only on denials. What's keeping people locked in is the pattern they think they're seeing. Every new detail, every rumor, and every alleged behind-the-scenes conflict has only added more fuel to the discussion. That's why the situation keeps getting revisited, because to a lot of observers, it feels like there may have been much more going on beneath the surface than anyone first realized. Whether those suspicions lead anywhere concrete is a different question. For now, what remains is a cloud of allegations, a lot of unanswered questions, and a version of events that many people still don't fully believe they've heard the whole truth about.
At this stage, people are no longer focusing on a single claim or brushing it off as one isolated incident. What's building now is much bigger. Piece by piece, more moments are being pulled together, and viewers are starting to see a pattern that can't ignore. Conversations are spreading fast, whispers are turning into louder reactions, and attention around the Prince family keeps intensifying. Meanwhile, those watching from the sidelines, especially within the industry, seem to be paying closer attention than ever before. The pressure is rising, the spotlight is getting harsher, and every new detail appears to add even more weight to the situation. What once may have seemed easy to dismiss is now becoming harder for people to overlook.